Hi everyone. So in this video we are covering the Anglo-Norman period. This is the second class in the series of History of British Literature under the UGC NET English complete course. So we will be dividing this age into the three parts, right? We will talk about the events at this age was eventful, right? Then we talk about the linguistic aspects and then the literature. We will be covering your writers and their most important works. And if you're new to this channel, you should know that my professor note provides you exam oriented study material, complete preparation roadmap and the mentorship program as well, right? Now we will be targeting for the JRF in this December session exam. So get enrolled soon. Here are the contact numbers on your screen, right? Okay, so we are covering today Anglo-Norman period. Anglo-Norman period started in the 1066, ended in the 1350. So 1066 is the age that you have to remember. We also discussed this in the previous video. So this is a time period when Battle of Hastings took place. The William, Duke of Normandy from France, came and invaded the England. And the last king of the Danish Empire and your Anglo-Saxon, which is the Harold Hrothgar, he was killed. And the French army, the Normans, the French people established its rule in the England. Right? Now this is the Norman period. Their influence came. There is a transition in the literature, in the language and in the culture as well. Okay, so this is the first event that you have to remember. The most of the questions, if you will see from this age, they are talking about what is the three that the England has become the three language nation after the Norman conquest, right? So what are those languages, right? Mostly they are asking questions from language, the words like a mutton and beef, from where they are coming, and the questions about the Magna Carta, that when it was signed, right? So these are some of the very major events. There are also questions from the works. Every single thing I will discuss here in this video, and after that there will not be any need to go to any other source and cover this age for your exam, right? So this is the very first event we have in 1066. Now the second event is the 1215, which took place in the 1215 June, which is the issuance of the Magna Carta. Magna Carta is the Latin word. Magna Carta is the Latin word for Great Charter. So this is the first document about limiting the power of the monarch, so that he or she, whosoever will be sitting on the throne, cannot exploit their people and their power. And why did this happen? Because King John was a king back then of England. He was exploiting the property and crushing the rights of the barons. So they wrote this Magna Carta in 13th century in order to put the control on the power of the King John, so that he cannot exploit them. This is how it came into the existence. Magna Carta, known as the Great Charter. Who signed this? King John. Right? Because he was exploiting the power and the people of England. Okay? So this is how it came into the existence. Now there's something very important I want to tell you. Before this, they are the two intellectual institutions which came into existence. First one is the Oxford, which came into existence in the 1167. First one is the Oxford, which came into existence in the 1167. Another one is the Cambridge, which came into the existence in the 1209, right? And both of these has a major influence of the John Wycliffe in their shaping. Even though he came in the late 14th century and also known as the rising star of the Renaissance period. But these things are very interrelated, so I thought that I should discuss this thing with you here. Their dates are also important, as sometimes they are asked in your set net gate examination, right? Now, beside this, we have discussed the establishment date of these two institutions and the two main events. One is this one, another one is the Magna Carta. Now, the third event, right? The third event. What is that event? That is the 1337 100 Years War. That is the 100 Years War. Now, it ended in the 1453, even though it is beyond the Chaucer's age, but it began in the Anglo-Norman period. And how did this happen? So, Edward III, who was the king of the England, he was a nephew of King Charles IV, who died in the 1328. So when he died childless. There was no heir, right? There was nobody to ascend to the throne after his death. Then the Edward III was the assumed king, who will be sitting on the throne of France, and he claimed to the crown. And this decision was not taken kindly by the French people, because in France back then there was a rule that the king can only be from the father line, not from the mother line, because he was the son of Charles IV's sister, and they denied this thing from happening. But he claimed to the throne and ascended to the throne of France, and the people of France denied. The dispute emerged, and they brought the new king to the throne, and that's when this war breaks out, right? So this is when this 100 Years War started in 1337 and ended in the 1453, almost 116 years, but they call it a hundreds of years war. So I think this is how this term came into existence. This war was between the England and France. I know you already got idea. You are a very sharp mind aspirants. France, and the France is the one who won this war at the end, and the England had two provinces in France under their control. They also lose them, right? So this is the another event that you have to remember from this age. Okay, now once we have discussed all these events, beside this, now we have the linguistic features. Now, when Norman came to the England, so obviously there will be a transition in language, literature, and culture, and 10,000 words were borrowed from French to English, which later become the integral part of the English language. And this is how the English language is formed, by taking words from different languages, right? So 10,000 words were borrowed from the French language. Now, during this period, in this Anglo-Norman era, there are the three languages which were prevalent, and that is the reason that this Norman England is called the three language nation as well. And many a time there are the questions around these three languages. So the first language we have is the Latin language, is the Latin, which was the language of the clergy, and that was the main reason for the corruption in England, because clergy in the churches, the Bible is written in the Latin language, and the language of the common people, number two, is the English, and they are unable to understand that language. Then your Wycliffe came, who translated this Bible, which was written in the Latin language, to the English, right? So this is a revolution he brought, reformation in the churches. Third language is the French language. This language was the language of the courts, spoken by the noble people, upper class people were having conversation in the French language. So these are the three languages which were spoken in the England back then. This is a another thing you have to keep in mind. Now besides this, there's another fact that you have to remember while we are discussing these language features, is that there were 5 dialects this time. We had the Western dialogue, we had the West Saxon dialect, right, which was the dialect of the King Alfred. So West Saxon dialect, we have now the Southern West dialect, right? And then from another one, which is the Kentish, which was the another dialect. From this we have the Southern East dialect. This is how their name got changed, after this Norman conquest. Then another one we have here, the 2 more dialects which came from the Mercia. Mercia was the middle part, of England. The Mercian dialect there was. So from Mercia came your West Midland and East Midland. And East Midland is the language, is the dialect which was selected by the Chaucer to write his works. Why? What was the main reason? Because East Midland was spoken in London, and London was the center of trade and commerce, culture and writing. And this is how the authority, the economy influences your culture. Only their dialect came, only their dialect was chosen by Chaucer for his writing, which today has become or turned into the standardized English in the contemporary era, because there was the influence of authority. Because this is the dialogue which is used in the London, and London is the center of trade and commerce. So this is why in Marxism and culture studies it is being said that the culture is influenced or made according to the authority. It is always in their interest, right? So the economy, the power influences your culture. It influences the values, the mindset, how a person should behave, right? This is how the things are being advertised. This is how we are consuming the content. Well, we're going to the culture studies side. So yeah, East Midland is the dialect which is chosen by the Chaucer for his writing, and which later on got developed into the standardized English that we are speaking in the contemporary era, right? So, and then there was a 4th dialect as well, which is the Northern dialect. This is the new one. Okay, now this is it about the languages, right? And how they came into existence. Now we come to the 3rd aspect of this age, which is the literature, right? Okay, in literature in the 12th century we did not have any work of that supreme importance, but there are a couple of works that we should discuss here. One is the Ormulum by Oram Nightingale. Then we have another one is the Owl and Nigst Nightingale. The Owl and Nightingale by the Nicholas of Guildford. He is assumed to be the writer of the Owl and Nightingale. Okay, these are 2 works we have in the 12th century. Then we come further. Well, we have another work here in the 12th century as well, which is the Geoffrey of Monmouth's work Historia Regum Britanniae. This is in English, it means the history of the king The history of the King of Britain. Right, this is the another work which is written by the Geoffrey Monmouth. It was written towards the 1100 or something. I forgot the exact date when this work was written. I want you to search its date on internet. Right, the next work we have here is the Layamon's Brute. This is the 13th century work. Layamon's Brute. Right, Layamon's Brute is the historiography of Britain in the verse, right? And here in this work, we got to know about the King Arthur. All right, this is what this work talks about, and it was written in the 1205 by the Layamon. Right, then we have some of the very famous work of the French period. One is the Roman de la Rose, or the Romance of the Rose, right? 1230 the first part came, and 1270 the second part came. So make sure you write down this as well. Beside this, we have the Chanson des Gestes. These are the songs of the heroic deeds. Then we have Maria de France, the another woman poet. Maria de France. She translated the Aesop's Fables from Middle English to the Anglo-Norman French language. Right, so these are the important works. Then in 1320, another work we have here, 1320, there is a work called the Cursor Mundi in English, which means the history of the world. It was written in the 1320. So these are the important works that you have to remember from exam perspective from this age, and this is all what we have to know here. And if I talk about the literature, what kind of literature they were writing? So they were writing about war, religion, they were writing about the virtue, they were writing about the chivalry. There came a new genre into existence, which is the romance. Now romance is not only about love, right? Romance is about the knight's life, the chivalry means the quality that a knight's supposed to have, the courage, the honor, all of these things. And it is about their quest for courtly love, right? So this is what we get to see in literature during this age. So we discussed here three things. That was the event, and one event I missed here. I know this age is dated between the 1066 to 1350. In 1348 there was a Black Death, and that we can also discuss in the age of Chaucer, as age of Chaucer starts in the 1340. So it will be better if we discuss this in the age of Chaucer only. But since I have said this, so Black Death came there, bubonic plague was there, which swept almost half of the population of the England. So bubonic plague is a disease that was born out of the rats. You just have to remember the date of this event. So this is it for this video. In the next video, we will talk about the Chaucer's age, right? All the important aspects which will help you to crack your NET JRF examination. So keep watching, keep learning.